Hey guys, welcome to Series World. Today I'm going to explain a psychological thriller series called You from 2018. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The 7th episode opens with Joe describing to a therapist how things were really going well between him and Beck 1 month after the funeral. But things went wrong at some point, and they are getting distant. The therapist asks when things were good last time and when it went wrong. Joe tells him that it didn't just go wrong. Their relationship ended, and he knows that. Flashbacks show Joe and Beck having breakfast and chatting. Beck tells him about her first kiss, and Joe is listening to her stories eagerly. Beck expresses regret and wishes she could redo the first kiss and kiss the right guy. She always had troubles with bad boys and feels bad about herself. The scene cuts to Joe arranging a tent inside the house for them. He even got the lighting right. Beck tells him that she'll have the first kiss with the right guy tonight. Later, they are seen playing word puzzles. Joe explains to the therapist that they connected over everything. In their world, their relationship was an everything ship. One day, Beck tells Joe that she has been fired from the yoga studio. Joe invites her to work at the bookshop with him. This way, she can also write and work flexible hours. Beck agrees. The next scene shows Beck and Joe working in the bookstore, and Ethan takes a picture of them together. Beck posts it online. After that, they go back to working and chatting. While talking, Beck mentions Peach but stops talking about her right away. Joe encourages her to talk about Peach and the hard things. It'll make it easier for her. But Beck decides that she's going to save all of this for her therapist, Dr. Nikki. Joe was upset that she didn't tell him about her therapist sooner. Now Joe is sitting in Dr. Nikki's office, pretending to be a gay man named Paul, who's having trouble with his partner. Joe has cleared all the obstacles up until now, but this therapist is a new obstacle to him. Joe continues telling the therapist. The first cracks in their relationship formed when Joe noticed that Beck is not serious about her job. At first, he used to let it go because she's still grieving. But one day, Ethan comes up to him and complains about Beck being terrible at her job. She makes mistakes constantly. Joe tells Ethan that he'll talk with Beck about it. Joe then gets a phone call at the store from the Greenwich police officer. The officer asks him whether he's Mr. Mooney and if his car is all right. Joe lies and says that he's Mr. Mooney, and he lent his car to his nephew Spencer. The officer understands and cuts the call. Joe then goes to talk with Beck about her job. Beck gives the excuse that she's thinking about writing, and that's why she was late today. Beck realizes that it was a dumb thing to say, so she tells him the truth. She has been having vivid dreams about Peach. She's having a terrible time adjusting to this situation, and the only good thing now is therapy. Joe gets upset that she doesn't think he is also a good thing and is trying to help her. Joe thinks sometimes we get delusional about our relationship, such as Ron, who's banging on Claudia's door to let him in. Instead of Claudia, her friend opens the door and chases him away with a baseball bat. But there were also perks of working in the same place because one day Beck surprised him with a dinner date. That night, they talk a lot about Peach. Beck indirectly calls Peach a burden that she couldn't get rid of herself, even though Peach was a really good friend to her. Now that she's gone, she feels a bit of relief. Joe is happy to hear that. Beck continues that she realized all of this because of discussing it with Dr. Nikki, which again makes Joe a bit upset, but he doesn't make any comment. Beck tells him that her birthday is coming, so she's getting reminded of Peach more frequently, as Peach used to make a big deal out of her birthday. Joe proposes that this year he will do that for her, but Beck refuses. The next day, Joe is seen talking with Lynn about Beck's birthday. Lynn suggests Joe throw her a surprise party anyway because Beck loves the attention. Joe is telling Dr. Nikki at present that this was the beginning of the end, because at the surprise party he found out that Beck was cheating on him with her therapist. The scene cuts to the day of the party. Joe is seen getting out of his apartment with the cake he made for Beck. On the way, he meets Karen, and she tells him that Beck is lucky to have him as her boyfriend. Everyone has gathered at the bookstore in their favorite character costumes. Lynn and even Annika come to the party, except for the birthday girl. Joe goes to Lynn and asks why Beck wasn't there. Lynn tells him to calm down, as Beck is grieving, and grief is not a straight line. Joe tells Lynn that it's rude for Beck to not be there when they plan to spend the dinner together. While he's expressing how upset he is about Beck, Beck is standing behind him, listening. Joe notices Beck, and they go to a quiet corner. Beck expresses her frustration about this party. She told Joe that she wanted to keep it low-key, but Joe went ahead and did all of this. Joe tells her that even without the party, they were supposed to have dinner together. Plus, she's smelling like bougie alcohol. Beck does seem suspicious, but says that her therapy session went a bit longer, and then she was journaling while having some wine at a bar. Beck then leaves the party and doesn't even cut the cake. Joe is telling all of this to Dr. Nikki. While talking, he slips one of the fruit knives from the doctor's office inside his sleeve. Back to the story. The next day, Beck arrives at Joe's doorstep with donuts as an apology. They make up, but soon things turn sour again. Joe notices Beck gets constant messages and is trying to hide something. The next day, Joe follows Beck when she goes out for work. But Beck catches him in the park following her and asks why he was doing this. Joe asks her whether she's sleeping with her therapist. Beck is shocked, to say the least, and also explains that the texts were from her friend Emma Fox. She is upset that he didn't even have this much trust in her. Beck ends things with him right then and there. At present, Joe is done with telling his story to the therapist. The therapist thinks that there are two personalities of him, one that was hurt in childhood and is hopeless, and the other one believes in love. As their session has ended, Dr. Nikki suggests Joe visit him for another session, but Joe declines his offer and leaves. But he doesn't actually leave and hides in a corner with the knife in his hand, waiting for Dr. Nikki. But Joe decides to not do anything before he has any solid proof. So, to gather proof, he sneaks into Dr. Nikki's office and goes through his laptop. He finds the session that was recorded of Beck and Dr. Nikki. Beck expresses her frustration about Joe and how he isn't letting her heal in peace. She hasn't figured out a lot of things, Peach, her dad, or even Benji. She just needs some alone time. But she feels like Joe is everywhere. Dr. Nikki asks whether she thinks Joe is good for her, and Beck says that maybe he is, but now she needs to heal first. The record ends here, and Joe realizes that there's no affair between them. Moreover, the therapist is quite good for Beck. So after going back home, Joe gets out Beck's phone and destroys it. The scene cuts to Joe standing at Beck's doorstep. Beck opens the door and Joe tells her he's sorry. His jealousy got the best of him and he did what he absolutely shouldn't do. He doesn't want to, but he has to let her go now. So Joe gives her the puzzle game back and says goodbye. Beck also tells him goodbye with teary eyes. Joe is back at Dr. Nikki's office, explaining how he doesn't understand love. All the good memories that made him fall in love and being able to love the bad side of someone have made this feeling completely new for him. Dr. Nikki tells him that it's the same for everyone out there, and that's why therapists have their job. There are some people who find it hard to let love in, but to some, it comes very easily, like it was meant to be. We then see Joe going back to his apartment. Karen was sitting outside his apartment on the stairs. She asks Joe what happened, and he tells her that his girlfriend dumped him. Joe then tries to pass by Karen, but she stops him with her one foot. The next scene, they're in his house kissing. Soon they make love. After they're done, Joe falls on the bed, and Karen lays beside him. She tells him that she loves him. Joe makes an interesting face, and Karen smiles, saying she is messing with him. After Karen left, Joe sees Candace again, who's asking Joe whether he's going to leave Beck alone to turn her into a mess like Candace. Joe jumps off of bed. That's how today's episode ends. To watch more explanations of these kinds of series, click on the videos on your screen. And don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, thanks for watching.